Good.
Sounds good.
Well, welcome everyone to our second annual Build Your Career Forum, our first time doing it virtually due to COVID, but we're super excited that we're able to continue with this tradition that we plan to do yearly for our high schoolers, getting them some knowledge in the trades fields, different things out there, and to actually see people really working in the field and talking to them. So today we have our plumber here, and I'll let Kelsey go into more about that. But just a few things. If you're a student and you come on or you're on here and you want to show us your face, that'd be awesome. We'd love to see who we're talking to. Just throw a baseball hat on and you're good to go. One thing quick about what I do, I run the Quad City Builders and Remodelers Association. And one thing that we're able to do for students in the area, whether you're in high school or graduated, is we're able to connect you to the outside world of construction. So if there is something that you are interested in one of these sessions and you want the connection to meet with one of these business owners or with schooling or, any kind of class that you're trying to find, I'm hopeful that I can connect you to the right people and get you on a path that'll help you get started and go from there. So I will put my information up in the chat during our conversation this hour, and you can take a photo of that. If you need to reach out to me at any time, please do. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Kelsey.
Thanks, Julie. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here with you today. I'm Kelsey King, and I serve as the admissions coordinator for Scott Community College. And today I have the pleasure of introducing Todd Carstens with Unique Mechanical. And Unique Mechanical specializes in residential, light commercial, remodel, and service plumbing work, and have been serving the Iowa and Illinois since October of 2008. So thanks so much for joining us, Todd. With that, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
All righty. Basically, I'm a third-year generation plumber. Started off at Peterson Plumbing. My dad was an owner of Peterson Plumbing. My mom was a Peterson. I have two older brothers that were plumbers. Basically a family full of plumbers. And with this kind of stuff that we're doing, we're looking for more kids to get into the trades and different plumbings and different things to move forward in all the trades, because there's been a lull of workers and people that want to do it. Plumbing's been great to me. Yes, you do make pretty good money. It's not easy. It's pretty hard. I mean, but you have to take every day in stride and keep moving forward to get the results. Our company is about 12 years old now. And I've worked for a few other companies and we've did really well for ourselves, and we are here to help people out and maybe get you into a path. It doesn't have to be with my company, maybe another company. I mean, just to keep moving forward and helping people out. Basically.
So I think on the next slide, then we do have a video. So we'll get that pulled up here.
Plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters keep civilization in running water, sanitation, and heat for comfort and cleaning. Plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters install and repair pipe systems to transport water, chemicals, and waste. They use saws to make holes in floors and walls, and pipe cutters to size pipe accurately. Plumbers work on water, drainage, and gas pipes in homes and businesses. They also install plumbing fixtures and appliances. They rescue homeowners from leaks, clogged drains, and malfunctioning septic systems. Pipe fitters install and repair pipes that carry chemicals, acids, and gases, usually in power plants and industrial settings. Some install fire sprinkler systems. Steam fitters install pipe systems that move steam under high pressure. Most work at college campus facilities and natural gas power plants. With high rates of injury on the job, precautions must be taken with common tasks such as lifting heavy materials, handling tools, and climbing ladders. Work schedules are full-time and may include nights, weekends, and emergency calls. A 4 to 5 year apprenticeship is typically required, combining paid on-the-job training with classroom study. A license is generally required for plumbers, and some states license pipe fitters and gas line workers. Helpers assist experienced trades professionals, haul tools and materials, and clean work areas. They typically have a high school education and learn on the job.
So, Todd, we can talk a little bit more about kind of what you do for plumbing, kind of what your day-to-day looks like.
Sure. Our day-to-day, we do a lot of residential plumbing for some very big contractors in the Quad Cities. Dan Dolan, Jason McCoy at McCoy Homes, and Scott Pearson. And we take care of all the new construction stuff. We do remodel work if people call, depending on how busy we are. I have 5 employees now, plus a secretary. Rick Brown is my partner in the business. We're not scared to take on anything because we've did it for so long. So there's nothing too hard. It is scary for some kids starting out because they are scared to move forward. It's a teaching and learning type thing, and that's why it takes 5 years to do an apprenticeship. You know, we don't throw you out into the lions per se and start getting yelled at. You know, we kind of oversee everything. Like I said, we're very fortunate to have the contractors that we have that help us out day to day. I've never had an employee leave because we were too mean to them. I mean, people will come and go. You know, you have to make them decisions out as you go, just like any other job. What do you think, Kelsey? Help me out here.
So you said that it's a 5-year apprenticeship. Can you talk a little bit more about what that process looks like? Is it paid, unpaid? Can you speak more to that?
Sure. Okay, so the 5-year apprenticeship, what happens is that most companies like to get your foot in the door. They like to see what you're made about before they just promise you an apprenticeship. So if you could get into a company that is willing to start your apprenticeship right away, that's fine. That's fantastic. But, you know, you have to remember that they want to see the dedication, the day-to-day, getting up in the morning, making sure you're there at work, doing a good job, and then the company will usually follow up with starting an apprenticeship for you. And it is a 5-year apprenticeship, and then your pay raises are built off of it. So the standard used to be $12 to start. I think everybody's kind of leaning to $15 with minimum wage going up. But everything is negotiable through that. And then when you're done with your 5-year apprenticeship, technically through the state, that's when you can test out, you can take your journeyman license, because you do have to be licensed through the state. And then in turn, it goes through Davenport, Bettendorf, all the metro. They all kind of follow the same guidelines. So once you're signed up through the state, you're signed up. So then you're moving forward. Then it's a day-to-day process. And then usually about every 6 months, you get a raise. And it does take a little while. But at the end, the result is you turn out and you are a plumber. And you are confident in what you're doing. You're confident in fixing something, roughing in something, helping your neighbor, you know, whatever it may be.
So with a license, you have to get licensed in every state. And then is that something you just do once, or do you have to reapply for your license each year?
Basically we have the city of Davenport makes sure that everybody is licensed. And we help everybody out with getting it all done through the state. And then once you're signed up through the state, you're good to go. and then it starts recording it. It keeps track of your time and different things like that. So that's stuff that we help out with. You can do it on your own, but it's easier when you're with a company that's a little bit more laid back, saying, hey, we'll help you out. We'll get you all situated, and we'll talk to the director that's, and I forgot his name. So if he watches this video, I hope he doesn't get mad at me. But he's just downtown Davenport, and he basically goes through everybody's resume or what we're trying to do to get them signed up and get moving forward.
Is there any kind of continuing education that plumbers have to go through?
Yeah, yes.
Changes in the industry?
Yes, there is. You know, really, you're not going to do that kind of stuff in your 5-year apprenticeship. It's more for journeymen only. So it's up to your city inspectors, you know, depending on what they want you to do, you know, to follow the rules. And then as a journeyman, you're obligated to go to continuing ed classes to keep paying up. So once you're done with your apprenticeship, when you become a journeyman, you still have to pay for that license. And that's where the continuing ed comes in a lot. That's pretty much in every trade. Every trade follows the same guidelines. I mean, it's, you know, you just got to put in your time.
So you talked about the pay within the apprenticeships. Once you're out and have been in the field, what's kind of the pay range that a plumber can make?
Well, it really depends on what direction you're going. We are a non-union shop. The union shops have their own schooling, their own stuff, and you have to go to school over at the union hall, which I did, and my partner Rick did too. That's why we know so many people. By us being a non-union shop, you're doing your educational work, your training online, and it's up to you to make sure that you get your schooling done too, because everybody worries about how much they're getting paid, but the number one question from a boss is, hey, are you doing your schoolwork? Are you getting caught up on your schoolwork? Are you, did you pass all your classes? Did you go to the next class? Back to what you said before about the pay. I like to tell people through our company that journeyman pay could range from $60,000 potentially to maybe $80,000 on the non-union side. And then if you were to go to the union side, it would probably be just a little bit higher than that. I mean, I would say 80 would be a solid number on the union side, and it could be more depending on what you do. Job superintendents, job foremans, service guys, depending on what your specialty is, that's where the money keeps going, Kelsey. I mean, sky's the limit. If you really want to make a bunch of money and work a bunch of overtime, I mean, you can hit them numbers you're looking for.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
So what's the difference, like for a youth that's interested in plumbing? You were in the union and now you're not. Mm-hmm. What's the difference, or do you feel is the main difference between the two for someone trying to decide?
Well, I don't want to get myself in trouble, and I can't put my foot in my mouth. So I'm gonna tread really lightly, Julie, with that question. I like to tell everybody that some of your union shops care. They care more about you than being a number. Okay, so on the union side, you're going to get paid good. You're a number. You're expected to do this, that, everything. And if you don't fulfill their guidelines, sorry about that. If you don't fulfill their guidelines, there's some consequences on the union side. On the non-union side, we like to be a little bit more laid back, help people out. I always tell everybody, Unique Mechanical is the least stressful, the least stressful company out there, because we're not going to sit there and yell at you. We want you to be happy, you know. So I'm sorry if I'm going around your
No, that's fine.
question, Julie, but I really have to watch what I say, because the union they were great for me and they were great for my family. But we chose just a different path moving forward.
So
So
Todd, with like someone that like, because you own your own company, so I guess
Sure.
my question is, we have a lot of students that, you know, I think that's probably their ultimate goal. So you can go through the union like yourself and then still come out and do non-union. I mean, if you want to own your own shop,
Mhm.
are you can choose union or non-union? Is that how it works?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that is a choice. It is a choice. And that choice gets really technical with insurance and benefits and how much owners pay versus, you know, being in the union and stuff like that. And you're really getting into the fine lines of that. Help me out a little more. Help me out a little more, Julie.
I think for this level of students we're talking to, I think just knowing they can do both. And
Oh, they could do both. Yes, without a doubt. The union is great. You can go over to the union hall, you can sign up, you get put on a list. I mean, they contact you back, you know, and see where you're at on the list, starting your apprenticeship. Non-union shops, on the other hand, we don't, if we need a bunch of people, that's great, but you know, it is harder to get your foot in the door. It is hard to get your foot in the door. So what I tell everybody is, hey, go sign up for the union. See if you can get your foot in the door. If you want to go that route. If you want to go to a non-union shop, it doesn't really matter. The first part, Julie, is walking through the door and having a goal, deciding what you want to do. You want to be a plumber? Okay, I'm going to walk through Todd's door. Let's see what Todd has to say. If he can't employ me, who the next person could be. You know, we're here to help people out, realizing that it doesn't have to be scary, Julie. We can move forward. There's so many companies that are out there. Like I said before, the union hall side is great. It's did so much for so many people over the years. So you'll never hear me say anything bad about it.
So Todd, if a student was just came to you,
okay,
because say I have a student call and they're interested in plumbing, and
Yes.
I connect them to you, and they haven't
Yes.
done anything, but they're in high school, maybe they're a
Yes.
senior. What is their next course? What do you recommend?
What I would recommend, and I've said this to other people, is if you can't get a job right away through a plumbing company, you need to move in the direction to help yourself. So that being said, we have great wholesalers that are around here: Plum Supply, Ferguson, Adels, the companies that are across the river. And what that does is it teaches you how to learn fittings, learn the pipes, see what everybody's doing, you know, moving in that direction. And then I also tell people too, well, if you're unsure, Scott Community still offers the heating division. That is fantastic, because there isn't a plumbing company out there that if you came through my door and you said, hey, I mainly know heating, but I know, you know, plenty other stuff. I went to Scott and I did my 2 years. We love it, because at the end of the day, as owners, we sit there and say, okay, they took the time, they did the dedication, they did the 2 years, they got their heating certificates, their HVAC, you know, stuff like that. It all kind of ties in together, and you never, like I always tell everybody, educate yourself, make yourself smarter, make yourself more valuable. But a new person starting out, a new kid starting out in the plumbing side, it is tough. You have the union hall, you have some of the non-union shops, you have, well, even online, Penn Foster does different plumbing classes, different intros, you know, to college and stuff like that. So if you do your research and you walk into my door and you're you know, hey, I'm just out of high school, you know, I really want to be a plumber, I'm going to do my best to figure out what we can do for you to succeed. Because we don't, the problem in this line of work is it's getting harder and harder to find good quality people that want to be a plumber, you know. I don't know if that helps you much, Julie. I get going and
No,
then
that's fine. And I think Kelsey has another question for you, so I'll let her go ahead.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
So, Todd, can you talk a little bit more about some of the like conditions you work in, whether you're like outside in the elements or warm inside a house, kind of what's the environment like that you work in?
Kelsey, that's a really good question. In plumbing, you got to be ready for everything. Just because it's raining, it doesn't mean we go home. Just because it's muddy doesn't mean we go home. The conditions, you know, it's seasonal. It's like anything else. If the carpenters are on the roof working, then we need to be working too. It can be cold. It can be extremely hot. You know, the conditions of the weather, I mean, Mother Nature, we all know Mother Nature, and, you know, you got to have that stuff. You know, you got to have a couple pairs of boots, you know, a couple pairs of pants. One of my bosses years ago used to say, always keep an extra set of tennis shoes, clean tennis shoes in your truck, because you never know if you're putting in a groundwork and it's muddy and you have to go do a service call down the street and it's a brand new house. You know, you don't want to look completely bad, and you can at least say, hey, I'll take my shoes off, they're not muddy, thank you. But the weather in the Midwest is harsh. I mean, it'll do some damage to you. You know, we try, Unique Mechanical, we try to provide extra sweatshirts, hats, beanies, advertisement stuff that you guys have seen before, gloves, you know, trying to help people out, knowing that Mother Nature she's rough. I mean, it will be cold, it'll be hot. That's a really good question, because that one still to this day gets me. And oh yeah, you got to learn how to wear long underwear pretty much about eight months out of the year.
So would you say plumbing is a very physical career to get into?
It is. It's very physical. You don't have to be the strongest guy. You don't have to be the most in shape guy. It is physical, and nobody is out there to make you get hurt, because none of us want a work comp claim, if that makes sense. So I don't want people getting hurt because they're working too hard, or it was hot that day and I feel like I'm going to pass out, stuff like that. Yeah, it is physical though. I mean, you have to be able to do some stuff.
So can you talk about what are the typical hours of a plumber?
Typical hours, 7 to 3:30, 8 to 4:30 are your main hours for new construction, service work, stuff like that. Overtime wise, you know, Saturdays, nobody really works on Sundays unless it's an emergency service call, and there isn't a service guy out there that really wants that Sunday phone call. I didn't have too many of them in my career, but, you know, Saturdays, you know, you might have to go in on a Saturday, you know, till noon or something, you know, if you got to get the jobs done. But mainly it's a 40-hour-a-week job. It could be 32 hours a week. There isn't a company out there that, you know, if they've got 32 hours, you know, scheduled forever, then we work 32 hours. If we have 40, we work 40. I mean, it's a demand on the job itself, depending on what jobs you have. I mean, it's a lot of work, you know, trying to schedule everything. And, you know, like I always tell everybody, 7 to 3:30, you got to be willing to get out of bed. 8 to 4:30, you know, it can be tough too. You know, them are the main hours, you know.
So another question we have from a student is plumbing complicated, and what's the most complicated part of the job?
The most complicating part of the job is learning the code, the waste and vent side can take you a long time to really learn, and you need some really good teachers to explain, the code side of it, because the codes are there to make everything safe, and you have to follow the codes to make sure that everything is right. And you're basically going back to the code. So you want to make sure that everything is safe. And the complicating part of it, in my eyes, would be running the PVC and the code side of the waste and vent. Running copper or PEX isn't that bad to do. It's not too complicating. There are some steps in there. We do run gas pipe. Gas pipe can be repetitious, but in the back of your mind, you need to know the BTUs and if you're getting enough pressure to all the fixtures and stuff like that. But all that stuff is stuff that you learn along the way. So for me, it's every day. For somebody just starting out, it can be confusing, and that's why it takes a lot of time to get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. So do you hire anyone in high school, or what's the age that you'll start to hire on some students?
We prefer that you're graduated from high school and you have a valid driver's license. We have hired some students from the student-built home. You guys have both heard about the student-built home stuff. We have hired some students from them, and they've been great. One student, a good friend of mine still to this day, he came to work for us. He worked for about 3 years, and he came from the student-built home, and he decided that he was going to be a sprinkler fitter. And he basically put his plumbing stuff on hold and went to the pipe fitting or the sprinkler fitter side, and he's doing fantastic for himself. We love to see it. Other student-built people, we try. The reason Unique Mechanical is involved in it is because we want the students to feel that it's not that stressful. If you want to become a plumber, and they get to see the electrical, the tinning, all the stuff that's involved, the carpentry. It's such a great program. And at the end of the day, you need to graduate high school. You need to have a valid driver's license. Them are the two beginning. And you have to have, because what happens is if I put you on insurance, Kelsey, if you have a bunch of wrecks, you can't drive my vehicles. And by me helping you out with driving a vehicle, it cuts back on your gas, So I would say, like I said from the beginning, I would say I have helped out some high school kids in the summertime if they were looking for a summertime job. I have helped out a few, but not that many. But really, the graduating from high school and having a valid driver's license is the start of everything.
So what are some classes or skills in high school that students can start working on now?
Well, that's a tough question, because we all know they took a few of your trait stuff out of the high school. Well, you could think it's a joke, but I used to always say, if you could learn how to shovel, you could make $1 million, so a good shoveler is hard to find. Basically, like in high school, with the high school classes that you have, be good at math, no, and I'm not saying you got to be a whiz at it. What I'm saying is learn how to read a tape measure, before you leave high school. Say, you know what, can somebody break this down for me? I need to relearn how to read a tape measure. That's fantastic for any traits, because I think that a lot of people leave high school and they don't know how to read a tape measure, and then it makes my job tougher, and then I got to sit there and teach you how to read a tape measure. And with the school stuff, I remember when they used to have woodworking, and that was fun. It was a lot of fun to go through woodworking. I'm just not up to date, Kelsey, on what the school is still offering for different classes, to help with the trait side at the high school level.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned is great. Just learning the tape measure, those kinds of things sounds spot on there. What is it that you enjoy most about being a plumber? And then on the flip side to that, what is maybe the downside?
Oh, it's easier to go to work working for someone than it is being an owner. that one, I mean, what I always liked about plumbing myself was, you go into somebody's house and you take that old, rusty, corroded looking kitchen sink faucet, you take it off and you put a brand new, beautiful one back on, and you look back and you look at it and you go, man, that really looks nice, and it's done professional and it looks nice. And it, when you leave, you feel like you did somebody a good service when it comes to that. The tough side behind it, groundworks, back to shoveling, the tough, the labor side of it is extremely, it can be tough on you.
Hey, Todd, I'm assuming with being a plumber that you have a lot of problem solving you have to do.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I always tell everybody you're a mechanic. At the end of the day, you're a mechanic. I may not be a mechanic that works on cars, but you have to be able to problem solve on the spot, figure out what the problem is, start figuring out how you can fix it, how you can fix it and move forward. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, with the plumbing industry that you have to work on. So I tell people all the time, not only are you a plumber, you're a mechanic too.
A question we have in the chat is, can you tell us about one of your favorite projects that you've done?
One of my favorite projects, I was working for a company called 4-Star at the time that is no longer in business. And they said, hey, Todd, you're going to go plumb this motel. And I went, whoa, a motel. Wow, it's a big difference between a house, and I ended up doing 2 motels that year. So after I got the one done, I went to the next motel. And with plumbing, being it's day to day for me and it's everything, you lose track of the real fun stuff that you did over the years. So Kelsey, for me, I got to do a couple motels. I got to be part of it, and it was a lot of fun. And there are plenty of companies that are out there that still do motels to this day. I mean, personally, Unique Mechanical isn't, I don't want to tell my competitors, but I probably am going to turn away on a motel right now. But there's a lot of things, over the years. And I mean, you could sit back and there's fun times, sad times, just like any other job, but I'd say motels for me, that was a lot of fun. When I got started in that, I was probably, a couple years out of my apprenticeship. So I was a journeyman for maybe a year or two. And then that got thrown in my lap, and to see it from the site work all the way to helping the janitor mop the floors and them opening the doors, that's the fun side of it, that you remember.
Are there any parts of what you do that is dangerous, or can you talk a little bit more about safety precautions?
Yeah, here again, people do get hurt. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The dangerous side is we put in the sewer and waters going into the houses, and we have these great big high hose that dig all the way around to open up the sewer to try to make it safe. But stuff can happen, and it takes multiple people watching. Knock on wood, we haven't had anything bad happen in a while. But the sewers and stuff like that, everything's getting more safer. I would say it's getting more safer than what it was, 20 years ago. You just have to be smart on some of that stuff. I mean, just like the ladders, 4-foot ladder, 6-foot ladder, 8-foot ladder, 12-foot ladder, you don't belong standing on top of them. You got to use your head a little bit, because at the end of the day, speed doesn't mean nothing if you fall off the ladder and break your leg. Being careful. I get mad at my guys because I've seen them jump down in basements. I've seen them do different things, and I'm like, dude, if you get hurt, now I got to work comp claim. Now I'm backed up. Now I got to find somebody else. I mean, you have to be safe at everything you do, and plumbing is, no different than any other trade. That's a good question, because if all of us were sitting here, a plumber, electrician, a roofer, a carpenter, a general contractor, everybody that's involved in the build from the beginning to end, the number one thing always has to be safety. Always has to be safety.
And just a reminder to the students that are joining us too, if you do have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat, and we can certainly answer those as well. Or you can unmute yourself to ask a question too, whichever you prefer.
Kelsey, I got one for you that I get asked a lot. Who makes the most money out of who makes the most money? I get this one all the time. And the ongoing question always was, the plumbers and the electricians always made the most money. And then the sprinkler fitters slid in there. And so now the sprinkler fitters are up at the top. So that's a very common question. And I don't want to dog any of the other trades, but if the plumbers and the electricians and the sprinkler fitters are at the top, then right below them would be the tinners, the carpenters, roofers. Let's not forget the concrete guys. Bless them guys. I mean, pave the planet. I get it. They're pretty high up there too. Everything nowadays is getting more equally balanced out, but that's a common question that I get all the time. Who makes the most money? Man, I don't know. It used to always be the electricians and the plumbers. Now the sprinkler fitters are in there. So it's an ongoing battle of who makes the most money. I just thought I'd add that.
Money is important. It's like a question a lot of people want to know. We got another question. What is a sprinkler fitter?
A sprinkler fitter. A sprinkler fitter works on fire protection. So like when you walk into the commercial buildings, or you walk into different buildings and you look up and you see that chrome little shiny head that's at the ceiling, they're the ones that take care of the fire protection. Pretty much every commercial building has a sprinkler system in it. They're moving forward on some houses on the Illinois side. It's been ongoing talk about adding in on the Iowa side on the residential, but they haven't really moved forward with that yet. But yeah, so the sprinkler fitters, they got the shiny little chrome object that's in the ceiling and all the pipe. There's a lot of work to it.
Great. Great, thank you. Good question, Paige. Are there any other questions, or Todd, anything else that someone coming into the plumbing field should know before we wrap up in the last few minutes here?
You know, if you don't want to get into the plumbing field, get into other stuff. I mean, it's been the ongoing battle forever, is the lack of helpers and the lack of people. If you don't want to be a plumber, you know, look into sprinkler fitting, look into being an electrician, you know, look into different things, because the trade world is out there and you're getting a great education behind it. Everybody follows a format for it. Just move forward. I mean, we don't want to deny anybody in the field of traits, different traits, outside work, different things. I mean, we always forget about landscaping. I mean, there's another one. I mean, all the stuff. There's so much out there that, yeah, if you want to go to college and you want to get a bachelor's degree in whatever you decide, I mean, just remember that there's a lot of stuff that you can do that pays really good money too.
We do have another question in the chat, is what tools do you need to bring with you?
Well, with like our line of work in plumbing, the tools is very hard because there are so many, but there's the basic tools that we always tell everybody, you know, a tape measure, a pencil, a pair of channel locks, and well, it used to be a stick ruler, but not everybody knows what a stick ruler is nowadays. But basic tools like that in our line of work help a bunch. With us, we try to supply a lot of the more expensive tools, but we can't supply every single thing, Kelsey. I mean, we got to draw the line somewhere. So it's not uncommon for somebody to go out and buy their own stuff to help them move along, make it more efficient, faster. But for us, you know, and most of the other ones, you know, just basic stuff, a hammer, a channel locks, a tape measure, a stick rule, a good pair of boots, you know, gloves, a hat, you know, all the basic stuff that's out there. And people appreciate it. You know, you show up with that extra stuff, and you'd be surprised how many owners, you know, have looked at different people and said, well, do you even have a tape measure? No. How do you not have a tape measure? You know, when you're going into that kind of work. So that's some basic stuff. I mean, but for the most part, we supply a lot of the stuff.
Great, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but what you're seeing up on the screen now for the students are just some resources for you. So feel free to take a picture of this screen with your phone, or click on the links to get more information on what it takes to be a plumber and just the different resources. So thank you so much for Todd for joining us today, and thank you to all the students for submitting the questions that you had. But with that, I think we will wrap it up. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. And tell Julie thank you. She left on us.
Yeah, I saw that. She's not on here anymore, so we'll do it. Thank you.
And tell everybody thank you for having us on here again. You know, whatever we can do to help out.
Thanks so much, Todd.
Thank you. Bye. I'm going to do that. And then we're going to fold this down because I don't.
So Mary said she will stop recording when she gets back into the office. So
sounds good. Thanks, Kelsey. We'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.